Today I'm sharing a preset that I built and have been using lately to kind of fill in the space of where a warm pad type synthesizer would be. It's definitely still a guitar. It's basically just using a unique combination of effects to fill in the space in a similar style that a synth pad would do. In this video I'm going to be walking through the entire preset build, showing you all the settings, so you're welcome to recreate it at home if you'd like. I do have all the presets that I've made on my website. There's more information down below. These videos tend to be really detailed, and for some people it can take long to get to the information that they're seeking. I know a lot of people appreciate the detailed nature of them, but in order to satisfy both people, I have the timestamps down in the description. So feel free to skip around, find what you need, and exit the video if it's helpful. I do appreciate you leaving a like or subscription to the channel. There's, I think, over 70 Helix tutorials at this point. Kind of crazy. But yeah, let's take a look at the preset build. You can play something simple. You can actually hold that note there, it'll sustain forever. Or you can play more typical chord progressions. And it's really not doing anything fancy with the synth blocks in this one, but I put it in the synth category because that's what it's meant to emulate, just with a bunch of creative uses of the wet effects in the Helix. I wanted to mention that if you're interested in checking out some of the other videos I've done, I recently did a video demoing this 80s lead synth patch which uses some of the older legacy blocks here. A common complaint on the Helix forums, if you hang out there, is that people can't figure out how to use these things. It is possible, you just need to send it a very specific type of signal. And so I have a whole video that I detailed how I did that, and so you can use that to create your own effects. Synthesizer sounds. I also have a preset that I created using an oscillator block. I have this old preset which has been around for a while now and has been really popular, recreating Pat Metheny's iconic synth guitar tone. This one is soft pad. I have another creative one that uses pitch shifting blocks to basically you play one note and it harmonizes it, and the foot switches are set up so you can get different chord qualities, major and minor, or without the thirds entirely. And then we also have a synthesizer block for sub bass, a bunch of ambient presets. This is kind of like the special effects side of things, and a Korg MyQ emulation. Some creative, here's a more basic freeze patch, and then something I call dynamic freeze, which uses how long you press the freeze button down to determine how loud the note is. That's going to be kind of quiet. Now, if I press and hold it while I'm not playing anything, that'll get rid of it. It'll reset it, and if I hold it down longer, it'll be way louder this time. So a lot of cool things you can do in the Helix. I kind of put it in the special effects folder. But anyway, let's get to the patch walkthrough. Everything's going to be shown here on the screen as we go through, so no need to purchase or anything. You're welcome to take the settings and recreate it on your device at home. But if you are interested in getting an easy download of all this stuff, there's going to be links in the description. I have 100 plus presets I've been creating over the last few years with the Helix and 5 impulse response bundles. So here we go. Yeah, the input block, I'm using a very mild noise gate, and that's just to make sure that you're not getting any string squeaks or anything that the the patch isn't reacting to sounds that are unintentional. And those are the settings for this. I do have a very kind of basic and low DSP amp model running here. This will work for most guitars. It doesn't really matter what the amp sound is. You can replace it if you want. I just went with this model because it is one of the lowest DSPs in the Helix, and as you can see, we're starting to run out on the HX Stomp. All right, so the first block I actually have is a deluxe comp, the old compressor, which I'm using with a 10:1 ratio. It's kind of acting more as a limiter, and in this sense, it's just meant to create like a very sustaining sound, similar that what you would get to a synthesizer. I set the threshold very low, so we're getting a lot of gain reduction. Ratio is set very high at a 10:1. That's what a limiter would be defined as. Then we have a relatively slow attack for an electric guitar. I would probably define a fast attack as 12 milliseconds or less, where it's affecting the transient of the note. And the higher you run it, the longer it takes the compressor to react, the more natural it sounds. If you set that release slow, if you set that release slow, it gives you the effect that the guitar is sustaining a lot longer than it would have normally. Some people like to call this clean overdrive or whatever. And then you can see we have some little bit of dB added for the makeup gain. A soft knee, the further you put up this parameter, the more natural the compression sounds. That's a more advanced topic. And then we'll get into the amp block and the cab block. Nothing really to go over there. That's not important to this preset at all. The main sound, the one that you probably don't want to turn off, is the auto volume echo. So this is like a Boss slow gear, which is an auto swell mixed with a delay. So if you play something on the guitar, it'll just automatically swell it in for you. You could just use the stock auto swell, but this is an ambient preset, and so having a little bit extra delay makes sense and helps you save some DSP as well. The thing you want to keep in mind is that if you're holding a note down and it's already swelled in, if you go to hit another note, it won't be as dramatic. It won't be like a swell in. You might actually hear the attack of the note. So you'll always want to play complete chords together and give it time to reset. So there's the settings for that. I use this on a bunch of different presets. It's really useful, especially in these ambient ones down here. If you want to use a volume pedal in place of this, I might delete that entirely and just put like a simple delay there in place. Now the other reverb block, both reverb blocks are actually always on, and I'm just changing some parameters here. This is kind of our stock sound, the glitz verb, so you can hear the preset without it. So that would be the preset with the compressor, the amp block, and the Autoswell Delay. With the glitz verb, this is what you're getting. The glitz verb, as far as the newer reverbs, I wanted to run everything stereo here, which is more DSP heavy. But the glitz verb, as far as all the other ones, you can see this is the only one we can actually access. So this is the one that I picked because it gave us a lot more options with the rest of the preset. If you're on the larger Helix device or you want to get rid of the auto swell, I imagine that'll open up a few more here. I'm just going to reset the preset, and then we can talk about the particle verb, which is one of the legacy reverbs. This is a reverb that's also always on. You can hear it's pretty mild. It is a very long decay. But one of the nice uses of this, and this is kind of old school Helix, this is before they added the polysustain, which is another DSP hog. There's a cool way you can kind of hack that sustain pedal, electroharmonics freeze type of use with the Helix. And this is just by assigning a parameter to the dwell, assigning a foot switch change to the dwell parameter. So 15% is pretty mild. I have the mix set high, so you're still getting a lot of the reverb, but it's not too much. As I press foot switch 1, and I'm holding a note, watch what happens. I increased the dwell parameter way higher. I lowered the mix so it's not so loud, but this is just going to sustain forever. Can you kind of hear it there in the background? Just those harmonics I had played. If you wanted it a little bit higher, I would set the dwell even higher here. So I'm going to reset that. Maybe put it all the way up to 98%. I'll play those harmonics again. And now when I hit this, this will sustain indefinitely. You can play pads underneath it. And the whole time, those two notes are just ringing out. When you want to kill those notes, just let go of it. It might be useful also to set that up to a momentary function if you want. Right, so I have it set up to latching, which is, you press the button, you let go of it, and it's going to latch, it's going to hold on to it. If you want to set it to momentary, it's only going to sustain as long as you're holding the foot switch down, which might be more akin to like a piano sustain pedal, right? It only sustains as long as you hold that down. So altogether, the preset so far, without adding the filter, the extra delay, or the modulation, is just kind of this really nice and warm ambient swell. You can play complicated chords. It doesn't get too muddy. You do want to have, just in general, a slower harmonic progression. You don't want to be playing. You'll find it gets pretty muddy. So just the way you play, it has to be a little bit slower here. The first delay I have, and then we'll move to the filter, is just a simple bucket brigade delay. Again, another very low DSP one. I wanted to keep this possible on the HX Stomp and give you as much control as possible. Adding in this delay, you can see there's plenty of feedback here. It just really makes the chords last a lot longer. So if you're playing something that's much more static, it's only one chord change. Like for example, it's all E like I'm doing here. This will make your chords sustain a lot more. And another cool thing might be to actually experiment with placing that behind the reverb so that, you know, we get the reverb sound and we're actually delaying the reverb. We're making the reverb repeat over top of itself. That can be a cool sound, switching the order of delays and reverbs. Now, the filter is like a Mutron style thing that I used. I tried to use a bunch of different ones here, like the auto filter. I came up with some cool sounds, but I didn't think it'd be as widely usable, and I want this patch to be able to be used in a lot of different situations. So this Mutron just kind of changes the sound just a little bit. It filters it. Maybe like a resonance or an envelope, one of the envelope parameters on a synthesizer would do. And then lastly, we do have a flanger here, which is not a drastic flanger sound like you might expect with the name flanger. I wanted to use chorus. I didn't really like the sound of this chorus for this effect, so I didn't like a flanger is a very similar effect to a chorus. It just has a feedback part to it, where a chorus normally doesn't have that. But this was just my idea to get a little bit of modulation in there if you wanted. So an example for what this preset might sound with everything engaged. Playing a little bit faster maybe than I should with this delay on, but if I turn that off, lets me get away with some slightly quicker chord progressions. So yeah, there it is, the soft pad patch that I've created to kind of replace, you know, what a soft synthesizer pad would do, but of course for use with an electric guitar. Thanks for checking out the video. I hope it was helpful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button down below. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Like I said, 70 Helix tutorials now, and growing always. Anyway, take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.